Which came first, the chicken or the egg-like product made with medium-chain triglycerides and tocopherols? Dunkin only dropped the donuts part of its name in 2018, but it expanded its horizons beyond sugary baked goods well before that. The chain added its first breakfast sandwiches to the menu in 1997, and while the offerings have changed somewhat over the years, they remain among the most popular items at Dunkin. If your go-to breakfast sandwich contains egg, however, you may be surprised to learn that those eggs aren't just, eggs. Each patty contains a whopping 10 ingredients, including soybean oil, water, cornstarch, salt, natural flavor, xanthan gum, cellulose gum, and citric acid. That list actually used to be a lot longer. In 2016, the chain promised to go cage-free with their eggs, and a year later they decided to cut some ingredients in its egg patties and use fewer fillers, as there was more water in each patty than actual egg yolk. Nigel Travis, the then CEO of Dunkin' Brands, promised Fox News, "The yolk is much fuller. It looks much more yellow." Taco Bell's breakfast menu has a lot of fans, but for some people, the eggs may raise red flags because they aren't just eggs. Far from it. Back in 2015, Taco Bell removed all artificial flavors and colors, added trans fat, high fructose corn syrup, and unsustainable palm oil from its core menu items. 3 years later, it removed preservatives and other additives where deemed possible. But for whatever reason, those positive changes didn't extend all the way through their breakfast menu. While Taco Bell uses 100% cage-free whole eggs, these are combined with soybean oil, salt, citric acid, pepper, sunflower oil, flavors, xanthan gum, and guar gum. Of course, salt and pepper are classic additions to any breakfast egg. However, the likes of xanthan gum, a fermented sugar often used as a thickener and sometimes substituted for eggs in gluten-free baked goods and sauces, is a little harder to understand. While not considered dangerous by the FDA, those who are trying to avoid additives as much as possible may want to look elsewhere for a fast food breakfast, as these ingredients are added to the eggs in Taco Bell's breakfast Crunchwrap, breakfast burritos, and quesadillas. Chick-fil-A currently only serves breakfast until 10:30 a.m., so you'll need to move fast if you want to sample its biscuits or muffins. If you're looking for real whole eggs, however, you may wish to move even faster in the opposite direction, because Chick-fil-A is not the breakfast spot for you. Delicious though its breakfast biscuits may be, those menu items that contain eggs, such as the chicken, egg, and cheese biscuit, are a playground of preservatives, additives, and fillers. The ingredients list for each folded egg reads as follows: whole eggs, water, salt, butter type flavor, which is made of medium-chain triglycerides, coconut oil, and natural flavors, xanthan gum, citric acid, annatto, soybean oil, palm kernel oil, soy lecithin, natural flavor, and beta-carotene. The latter is used as a coloring agent, giving the egg its distinctive yellow hue, also known as the same color as if you just used plain old whole eggs. None of these ingredients are overly concerning. Triglycerides, for instance, crop up a lot in fast food eggs and sound much more alarming than they really are. In essence, medium-chain triglycerides are just fats made from coconut and palm kernel oils and have actually been linked to weight loss in the past. On the other hand, kernel oil and coconut oil are also notably high in saturated fats, which doesn't exactly work wonders on each breakfast sandwich's nutritional profile. Still, it is disappointing to see flavors added to eggs, a food that is already packed with plenty of natural flavor, in what seems to be an attempt to make these meals as cheaply and quickly as possible. Not only does Jack in the Box serve breakfast all day long, but it also uses real whole eggs in multiple menu items, the likes of its sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, supreme sourdough breakfast sandwich, and the sausage breakfast jack all currently use freshly cracked USDA grade AA eggs. Admittedly, these are fried in a butter-flavored vegetable oil, which does inevitably end up in the egg once it's all cooked, but that's a pretty minor addition.
Isn't this the kind of breakfast you just dream of?
Given the opportunity.
What isn't quite as wholesome is any Jack in the Box breakfast item that contains scrambled eggs. While the first ingredient in this concoction is whole eggs, the rest of each portion is bulked out with water, which makes up 19% of each serving. Egg whites, salt, xanthan gum, citric acid, annatto for color, and butter flavor, consisting of sunflower oil, natural flavors, and medium-chain triglycerides. You'll find these altered eggs in menu items such as the French toast sticks platter and the meat lover's breakfast burrito. As of 2021, Subway is no longer the biggest restaurant chain in the world, a title it held since 2011, having been pipped by McDonald's. Second place is no small feat, though, with nearly 37,000 locations dotted across the globe to feed your carb cravings at any time of day, including breakfast. But before you dash to your nearest Subway for some eggs, it's useful to note that in 2012, Forbes compared eggs at various fast food restaurants and found that Subway's contained the most non-egg ingredients. Fast forward over a decade, and things haven't gotten much better. While the eggs served at Subway restaurants restaurants no longer contain the likes of TBHQ, propylene glycol, or isolated pea product like they did in the past, they still contain a multitude of additives and preservatives that you may wish to avoid. If you order one of the 3 breakfast sandwiches that contain eggs, you'll be chowing down on a mix of egg whites, egg yolks, soybean oil, water, unmodified cornstarch, liquid butter alternative, aka liquid and hydrogenated soybean oil, salt, soy lecithin, natural flavor, tocopherols, salt, black pepper, xanthan gum, cellulose gum, and citric acid. None of these are particularly out of the ordinary or dangerous, but it's still strange to see something as simple as an egg made with so many ingredients. Panera Bread has been pretty vocal about its passion for real eggs in the past. In 2018, it petitioned the FDA to officially define the term egg, so other outlets couldn't list eggs made with additives, preservatives, or colors as such. Conveniently, this came just as Panera Bread launched its own line of breakfast sandwiches, which, you guessed it, were proudly marketed as containing real whole eggs.
Our view is if you ask for an egg, you should get an egg.
Sarah Burnett, Panera Bread's then Director of Wellness and Food Policy, said at the time in a press release, "Panera and our competitors use the FDA definitions to guide our product descriptions and names. But in the case of eggs, we have no guidance. Brands can say they offer an egg sandwich, but sell an egg product that contains multiple additives. At Panera, consumers can be assured that when they order eggs, that's exactly what they're getting." But while that may have been the case in 2018, it's not necessarily the case in 2024. Several Panera Bread menu items do use real whole eggs, but others contain scrambled eggs that are actually made with liquid eggs, which include citric acid and canola oil, in addition to the actual whole eggs. Compared to many fast food chains, that's still pretty good, but it's not quite the real whole eggs Panera Bread advocated for in the past. The Starbucks breakfast menu currently contains an impressive array of 9 different sandwiches, none of which contain real whole eggs. Depending on the sandwich you pick, you'll be treated to an egg patty containing varyingly long lists of ingredients. For example, the egg, pesto, and mozzarella sandwich uses an egg frittata patty that deploys eggs mixed with the likes of unmodified cornstarch, mirin, rice wine, natural ginger flavor, and soy-type flavor. If you opt for the bacon, Gouda, and egg sandwich, you'll get an egg frittata patty with cheese, which contains too many ingredients to list thanks to the addition of cheese as well as egg. Meanwhile, the chicken maple butter and egg sandwich uses a puffed scrambled egg patty that contains ingredients such as non-fat milk, soybean oil, dicalcium phosphate, salt, sodium bicarbonate, and butter flavor. If you're really determined to find something as close to whole eggs as you can get at Starbucks, a slightly less complicated choice is one of the Starbucks protein boxes. These contain hard-boiled eggs, with citric acid being the only other ingredient besides eggs. Both the kale and mushroom egg bites and bacon and Gruyere egg bites are also made with a relatively simple egg concoction of eggs, water, and citric acid. Del Taco has a stellar lineup of burritos, tacos, and wraps that deliver the carbs and copious amounts of cheese you want in an indulgent breakfast. No matter which item you choose, every option on Del Taco's breakfast menu uses scrambled eggs as the base for all this cheesy goodness. However, this is another fast food chain that doesn't use straight-up eggs in any of its dishes. Instead, it uses our old friend, liquid eggs. This time around, a hefty 19% of each liquid egg serving is made up of water. The rest of the mixture consists of whole eggs, egg whites, salt, xanthan gum, citric acid, annatto, and butter flavor, which is made from sunflower oil, natural flavors, and medium-chain triglycerides. Burger King was an early adopter of the fast food breakfast, introducing its croissantwich in 1983 as a very transparent attempt to compete with the McDonald's McMuffin. Heck, one of its most famous ads from the 1980s even saw a group of children creepily singing their apologies that the croissantwich beat the stuffing out of Egg McMuffin.
In a nationwide test, our flaky croissantwich with golden eggs and melted cheese, sausage, bacon, or ham beat the stuffing out of Egg McMuffin.
The croissantwich lives on to this day, with the Burger King breakfast menu also expanded to include the likes of biscuits and breakfast burritos, most of which are stacked with eggs, or in this case, something eerily similar to eggs. Burger King uses a liquid egg pasteurized mixture for its morning meals. The ingredients list starts with whole eggs, then goes on to add the usual suspects such as water, xanthan gum, citric acid, and medium-chain triglycerides. It's not the longest list of ingredients for a fast food egg, but it's definitely a stretch to say that these are real whole eggs. These eggs have caused some commotion in the past, with customers flocking to Reddit and other parts of the internet to complain about the rather gross-looking air pockets that form when the mixture is cooked. However, as others have pointed out, these bubbles are hard to avoid when cooking liquid eggs, which is another good reason to use real whole eggs instead. McDonald's is widely recognized as the fast food breakfast king. Whether you're pulling up at the drive-thru for a bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddle or punching in a DoorDash order for a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, Mickey D's has got your back when you wake up craving a greasy, carby, indulgent morning meal. And sadly, it has to be in the morning, as McDonald's has discontinued their all-day breakfast service.
We crack so many eggs every single day that our crew members have become real experts at it.
McDonald's is extremely loud and proud about the fact that it uses real eggs for its breakfast items. While it's true that some items, like the chain's McMuffins, use freshly cracked eggs that are cooked in a metal ring to match the shape of the bread, others do not. For example, if you order the bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, you'll be getting a folded egg made of eggs, non-fat milk, modified food starch, and citric acid. These are pre-cooked, folded, and flash frozen by the supplier before being recooked on each restaurant's grill. The same is true for any biscuit and McGriddle containing eggs. Any dish containing scrambled eggs, such as the Big Breakfast, also bends the definition of real eggs. These are made with liquid eggs containing citric acid. Likewise, the eggs in the sausage burrito are pre-cooked liquid eggs mixed with a mix of sausage and vegetables, as well as additives such as dextrose, calcium chloride, and xanthan gum.